So she asked, if someone was to ask, why should I have my home looked at by an inspector versus a general contractor? And I don't know how you guys feel about this. I'm a contractor, but more importantly, we're home inspectors. And here's the difference. If you think about a typical home that's being constructed, and a general contractor will sub certain specialties out. So if I'm going to build a home today, I would sub out the plumbing, I would sub out the electrical, I would have a mason do the foundation. So I'm basically passing these specialties off to someone that does them all the time. And I'm the coordinator, I'm putting it all together. That's what most general contractors do. The only opposite would be some man or woman that just does everything by themselves, and that's pretty darn rare nowadays. So the reason, in my opinion, the inspector is better to do inspecting than a general contractor. I myself and many of my contractor friends that I've known for years, they know nothing about HVAC systems. They know nothing about electrical systems. They don't do masonry, just as an example. So as an inspector, you should know you're kind of like a primary care doctor. You're not an exact specialist in any of these areas, but you're trained to look at the overall efficiency of that system, that building system, and put an evaluation together. General contractors, in most cases, cannot do that. We do many inspections for general contractors, and we educate them all the time on different systems in a home. They could be even better than us in certain areas of the home, but as far as the entire structure, they have no idea. So that's kind of the way I look at it. A good home inspector is really a diagnostician for a lot of different components of the home.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So I used to be a real estate investor that would flip a lot of properties, and we use the same builder always. And my builder was always like, let me just look at the house. You don't need to keep paying for these inspections. And no matter what, I always had my homes inspected, because inspectors also, their job is to look for things wrong. A contractor is not, that's not their job. Even I've even had a client that, this is showing one of my downfalls or at the time, I had the first downtown house I sold. My client hired a HVAC person, an electrician, a builder, like had them all come in and do the inspection instead of having the regular, home inspector do the inspections. And I learned at that point that I probably wouldn't ever advise somebody to do that again, because what all those people didn't catch on to was that the sewer lines from the house to the road were shot. And because they were built in the 1900s and hadn't been redone, the plumber that they hired, all those other people didn't know that downtown homes could have very old sewer lines, and that should be checked out. So they bought this home and had to replace the sewer line like a year later, because again, the home inspector, they kind of get to know the area. They know what they should be looking for. They know in different areas, things to really be looking for. So.
And I want to add on to that too, that's why it's important to also get a home inspection on a new build. Don't just assume that it's because it's a new build, it's all in good condition.
Yep, I agree.
What about on a condo? What are your thoughts on a condo? I mean, I always recommend an inspection, but a lot of times people say, what are they going to check on the inside? Like the stove, this and that, because the outside's usually covered by the condo association.
It is. And my protocol for people buying a condo, and we do a lot of condos, is I tell people, number one, in our opinion, you should get a copy of the bylaws or the minutes. There are differences between condo associations as far as what they do and don't cover. So I always tell people, get that first. And if you feel comfortable with that, great. The other thing we do is I tell people, we'll do whatever you want. If you want us to get on the roof of a condo, we'll do it. Most people, however, will have us do what we call an interior inspection, along with any decks, railings, or steps on the outside. And those are safety concerns. So we always do those components on the outside along with the interior. And that's kind of the normal or the most common, I should say, condo inspection that we perform. And just like anything, I mean, most of them are in really good shape, but we find stuff all the time. You just depend.
Is it less expensive then if it's just an interior?
It is, absolutely. Okay. Because it saves so much time. If you get on a roof or you do the exterior of a property, it takes a lot more time. So
thank you.
And then I wanted to touch on something that Megan said in regards to sewer lines. You guys, the date to remember in Northern Michigan is 1980. And the reason I say that is anything prior to 1980 is going to be probably on clay tiles, okay? Anything after that is going to be on PVC. So that sewer line is usually made out of, in our area, PVC or clay. There's nothing wrong with either material, but clay will leak over time because they're put down in 3-foot sections. When those sections start to leak, they attract tree roots. And that's like with any waste system, the number one problem is tree roots. So you want to make sure. So what I do is I tell people, if you're on a sewer line, if you're buying an older home prior to 1980, work with your realtor. They're your expert as far as gathering information about the home, and then find out if the sewer line has ever been cleaned or maintained in any way. And if they come back and they say, the homeowner's never had a problem, but they've never done anything to it. And that's, to me, that's kind of a red light that we should probably scope it. And remember when I was talking earlier about septics, the only service that I sub out is septic systems. Sewer lines we do in-house. So every one of our company vehicles, we have sewer line cameras in them, and we'll scope that entire line all the way to the municipal tap. And when you're selling an older home or any home on a municipal system, that's part of that purchase. The homeowner owns that sewer line, so you want to make sure it's in good condition. So we come in basically with our endoscopic camera, we run it down, and we check out the inside of the lumen of that pipe. And then what we do is we put that whole inspection in their report with a YouTube link that goes right to that client. They can click on it and open up their whole sewer line. They'll see that whole pipe from the clean out inside their home all the way to the municipal hookup, and they'll know the condition of it.
Is this a conversation if they call you, if we recommend and they pick you to do their inspection, do you have this conversation with them that it's something you would want them to check, or they should?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
What I tend to do is I give a lot of information out, and then I kind of I pause and ask a lot of times, do you have any questions? Do you have any further questions for me? And I feel obligated to tell people about all the systems in a home that you should get information about. In the event that somebody says, like the gentleman I told you about the other day that at first said, I don't think it's important to have that evaluated, I will put a statement in the report, and it states at client's request, he or she decided not to have the sewer line inspected, or at the client's request, they decided not to have the septic evaluated. So we're not liable if they get in that home and they have a sewage backup.
Okay.
Okay, it's really important. Now, keep in mind, most of them are fine, you guys. It's not like every home we inspect, there's a problem. Most homes are in pretty darn good shape, but from time to time, when you do a sewer line and it's in bad shape, it could be anywhere from $20,000 or $30,000 sewer line repair. And they can be expensive because you start to have a backhoe come in and dig them up and replace those old lines. In Traverse City, for example, in Manistee, Ludington, I've seen $25,000 sewer line repairs. And the reason they cost so much is not only the backhoe, but a lot of times that hookup is in the middle of the city street, and the homeowner has to pay to dig up the street and maybe even the sidewalk. The town does not pay for that. That's the homeowner's responsibility.
I just got a $20,000 quote for mine.
Is that right?
Yep, a $20,000 and I got a $12,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that the 12,000 quote probably doesn't realize that the hookup's on the other side of the city street.
Yeah, just another thing as a realtor, you just want to be cognizant of, and you want to understand that these are things that could happen. They probably won't in most cases, but you never want it to come up on your watch. Okay.
Well, and I always I would much rather my clients spend $1,500 on inspections as insurance than end up on the other side with an issue that they did not anticipate.
And as we talk about this, I always feel it's important to mention this to all of you. As inspectors, you think, well, they're going to find something wrong with this house. And I don't want you to have that thought process. Sometimes we just point out maintenance things. Like we will often put a maintenance note in the report, but that's just part of being a homeowner. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. The other thing that we do as a company is we talk about good things in a home. Let's say you're buying a home that's just had a new hot water heater or a new furnace. We're going to tell your client that this is a really nice feature of this house. You have a new hot water heater. This is about a $2,000 appliance, and yours is brand new. You have a brand new gas forced air furnace. This is about a $4,000 furnace. That's great. This is really nice. So as inspectors, our job is to point out things, but it's also our job, in my opinion, to talk about good parts of a home. What's going to be nice? Maybe this home we're inspecting is going to be better for you because it does have these components. Maybe it's a 125-year-old home with beautiful wood trim and a beautiful staircase. We're going to point those things out too. So we kind of give a fair and balanced evaluation of the property.
Awesome. Tim, we
Tim,
got about
if the inspection that you were talking about with the sewers in Mansalona, we found out that Mansalona is commercial only and not residential.
And was that just a statement or a question?
No, that's a statement.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Scott, if Scott had called you about that.
Oh yeah. So you just called me. Yeah. Good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I wasn't putting two.
I wasn't. Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing that one this week. Absolutely. He's an investor. So yeah. And
Yep.
Here's one that Megan sent my way, you guys. This is really cool because, in our company, I've designed it so that a lot of times we'll have 2 inspectors on site. And we do that for a couple of reasons. We can get our report out in an hour. We can get somebody on 2 to 3 business days on the schedule. Realtors will often call and say, when should we stop by? Or the client will ask, should we just come at the end because we don't want to bother you? I can tell you from doing thousands and thousands of inspections, in my opinion, it's going to benefit you as a realtor if your client spends more time in that home. And there seems to be more buy-in when that happens. So when anybody calls, I let them decide when they come. But if we're going to be there for 2.5 hours for a traditional inspection, I say, you come at the beginning. If you haven't spent a lot of time in the home, we could point things out to you, educate you on the home. You can ask questions, take pictures, measurements, whatever you want to do. When that occurs, I tend to get fewer callbacks about issues. They seem to understand the process better and they like the home more. So if you, in my opinion, if you're selling a home, tell your client to come at the very beginning. That's perfectly fine with us. And if you have a chatty individual, somebody that's really, they want to talk a lot, that's perfectly fine. They can hang with one inspector and our other inspector will continue to work. So it's really whatever's good for you, but I always invite people to come whenever they'd like.
You're nice. I would always tell my clients, do not go the whole time. You're going to irritate the inspector. They're busy, let them work. I would say, have the inspector give you a time toward the end that you can come and do like a 40-minute, 30-minute walkthrough or something like that.
So is there any other question? How much time do we have here,
We
Megan?
got about 6 minutes. So yeah, let's see if anybody has any other questions that they want to ask Tim.
I have one more question about and this might be a dumb question on when you said that what septics, or not the septics, but the drain lines to this, from the road to the house, that roots could get in there. Is that something that's recorded when you said to find out information on that? Is that recorded through the city when that's done? Or
No,
you have to trust the
it's really
homeowner?
not. You'll have to get that information from the homeowner.
Okay.
And the companies keep in the back of your mind are like Roto-Rooter, Mr. Rooter. Those companies in our area, the ones that come in, they'll use an auger or a cutting device, or they'll use a water jet. And so those are the companies that come in and clean those lines out. In my opinion, a lot of people, if they live right in town, will do it in an older home. They'll just have it done routinely every 2 to 3 years. But again, sometimes people just forget because it's underground. And a lot of times people will say they don't have a problem, and we'll get in there with a camera and we'll see the feeder roots coming in from those seams coming in like this, ready to plug the line out. So that's kind of what we look for. The other thing is when the roots dilate, their diameter, those feeder roots get in there, they can crack those tiles, and you could actually be spewing out sewage under the ground and not even know about it. So those things are really important. And for your client that's buying the home, that's the time to find out about the condition of the sewer line, not after they buy it.
Tim, I have another question. Is it common for you to do inspections and not have a realtor or client show up at all?
Yeah, I would say 80% of the time, the realtors don't come. And right now it's about 50-50 as far as clients coming or not. Keep in mind, we do a lot of homes for people that are coming here from out of state. It could be a primary residence. It could be a commercial or a secondary home. A lot of times people are not coming to those inspections. And what I normally do, because in our business, and you guys know this, it's all about communication. So if someone doesn't attend their inspection, after the inspection, I'll give them a few hours to maybe get the report, look it over, and then I'll call them. And I will say, hey, I just want to check in, see if you have any questions about the inspection, anything in that report that you'd like more information about. A lot of times in our business, people will not reach out and do that. And then there can be a little bit of frustration, not from our point of view, but from theirs. And I can minimize a lot of concerns really easy that they might be concerned about.
Anybody else? Any other questions? I've got one more question. Do you recommend using copper sulfate as a preventative for drain fields?
It's one of those things that some people recommend it. The long-term data is not really clear if it's going to help a lot. There's nothing that you can do that's more, I would say, efficacious for a septic system than to have them pumped regularly. That's more important than copper sulfate. And the reason being is when we say a system with problems, it's because the tank where the solids collect have not been emptied. And over time, they can float to the surface and they can plug up baffles. And you guys might know this, but the way a septic system works is every time you flush or run water in a home, the water goes into the septic system. The solids will stay in the tank, ideally, and then the gray water will be separated and go into the leach field or drain field and go back into the ground. So what can happen sometimes, if those solids aren't removed on a regular basis, they can plug that system up, that drain field system, and cause problems. And I know that there are a lot of people that would say, you know what, I hardly ever have my septic tank pumped, and I've never had a problem. But the many years, I can give you 20 other stories where they didn't pump and they had a lot of problems. So I know there's a lot of people that say that. I hear it all the time, but I can just tell you the people that pump and maintain their system will have fewer problems. And just know this, I personally just had a septic backup at my house. I live on West Long Lake Road in Traverse City, and I maintain it regularly. Every 3 to 4 years, I have it pumped. But even in my system that was regularly pumped, there was a blockage in there that plugged up one of the baffles. And I came home at the end of the day, and I thought my lovely dog had peed on the floor. and it was not my dog. It was septic backing up into my house. So about $20,000 later, I had my lower level redone. So it can happen to anybody, and it's not a pleasant experience. And you certainly don't want one of your clients to go through that, because you will get some pushback. So just keep in mind, septic systems and sewer lines are overlooked quite often.